Welcome back to Love, Money, Rock and Roll. We are on the Ellie route, I think. Right now we're talking to Kobayashi-jun. How are things? How's school? Everything's fine, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. The young man who's become of such a deep interest to my granddaughter must have an excellent academic record. Yeah, totally. I wouldn't say that. As you must have guessed, I didn't summon you here to discuss your grades. You should realize that I have certain expectations in regards to Elizabeth. The same, of course, holds true concerning our social circle. If you're talking about them asking me to play in their band, of course, that is also a delicate matter. He sighed with disappointment. I don't approve of Ellie taking up a hobby like that, but I can't forbid her everything. He stood up, locked his arms behind his back, and walked to the window. She has no power left except for me, and I don't want her to think me as some sort of tyrant. But only as long as the hobby of her remains within the bounds of reason. Believe me, I agree with you completely. I'm glad to hear that yesterday. You were in the basement that she rehearses in, weren't you? Then you'd probably like to know that she doesn't bring guests here often. Or there often. What exactly changed because I'd visited their studio yesterday? Nikolai, I've always appreciated your parents' contribution to the success of Kobayashi Corporation. You've already mentioned that. Have I? Forgiven, old man, my memory isn't as good as it used to be. It's impossible to hold out against that for too long. I don't know what I'm doing here. What do you think? I don't know. What sort of relationship do you have with my granddaughter? What relationship? I repeated. What was this? My grandfather's concern? Overprotection? Why did he mention my parents? Deep inside, I felt a fury starting to burn. Did my answer really matter? If I'd been brought here for a conversation, they'd let me go sooner or later. Hinted serious intentions regarding Ellie. You know, I think I like your granddaughter very much. Yeah, I think there may be something between us. So what? Watch yourself, Nikolai. His tone turned dry. I should probably have exercised caution, but I'd already gotten too worked up by the thought of this old man might be to blame for my parents' death. By the feeling that I was an uninvolved observer of my own life. But was that really the only reason for my response? Well, enough now. I didn't mean to pressure you. He suddenly relaxed. I just don't want her passions to say, let us cross a certain line. Apparently, that meant I was supposed to refuse her offer. Do we understand each other, Nikolai? We do. Then Kagemaru will see you to the exit. Walking out of Kobayashi Corporation's office, I consecutively felt hunger, anger, and confusion. I think I know what you're feeling. You want to drink, don't you? Full and somewhat calmed down, I walked down half-empty streets heading home. How did things even end up like this? In Kobayashi-jun, real Capulet was threatening to bring my time on Earth to its end, and were I to even look at it as Juliet, our relationship seemed to be of an interest to third parties too. The KGB, represented by Irina, and Kagome in search of her father. If we were in search of another one of Shakespeare's stories, it probably would have been interesting to me too. Though, could well have found myself in Hamlet rather than Romeo and Juliet. Besides, I couldn't be sure he was to blame. There was the possibility that the car accident really was just an accident. Plus, deep inside, the old man didn't make me feel that oppressive disgust that murderers evoke. He probably wouldn't have been in the position he does without knowing how to make the right impression. All those pointless attempts at finding who to blame were making my head swell. It was long past time to return home and try calling Kagome again. Sitting on a bench were Michael and Catherine. Try not to make a noise, I sneaked closer and hid in the bushes. Poor Michael. Catherine clearly doesn't like you since she's looking away from you. And I don't think she's a tsundere. I'm flattered, really, but if it's about Nick, what does Nick have to do with this? What doesn't he? You should probably read a book about how relationships work, Michael, because clearly you haven't read the right ones. You can assume whatever you want, but I'm not ready to promise you anything. But at the moment, I was more surprised than enraged. I'll talk to Nick. Why? Even I, sitting in the bushes, felt secondhand embarrassment. Is he my father, brother, and husband all at once? Why would he make decisions for me? If you can't give me an answer, I already have. So it's a no? Do you pressure every girl like this demanding an answer? I've already told you, I don't have much experience in these things. Then I can tell you what, you need to work on your approach. What do you mean? At least try to imagine what the girl is feeling, and pay less attention to how others see you. She smirked and suddenly lowered her voice. If you say so. Michael, in every other regard, he had always come off as a calm, reasonable, and confident young man. But right now, sitting next to the girl he liked, he was acting like a shy first grader at the start of the school year. Even Kyosuke would have done better. No, my cautious American friend. Love can't be learned from textbooks. I'm glad we understood each other. Then I have a chance. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Because she's from America. Because she's from America. Because nobody on, what's it called? Eastern Christianity isn't very strong on the Eastern Asian countries. And Japan, definitely not. Only 1% of their population is Christian. But alone with themselves, people can often allow themselves more than they do in public. But not Michael. Poor Michael. Anyhow, time to go back and talk to, Irina, because she's probably in my house. Great, I had to be here. Hello? Hi, Nick. Oh, hi. It turned out to just be Ellie. Just Ellie. If Kyosuke could only hear me right now. Why so gloomy? Everything's fine. You sure? I'd never guessed by your voice. 100% sure. I tried to make myself sound friendlier. Alright, I'm calling you because, have you thought about our offer? What offer? Come on, about playing bass for Zed Fields. I completely forgot about that. So I was waiting for my response. Well, I told you to think about it, and I'm thinking. How much longer do you think you'll be thinking? You're the ones who gave me time until Monday. I thought maybe you'd already decided. You know, I've been a little busy with slightly more important things the whole day, like talking with your granddad. Oh, what is it this time? Well, he knows I was at your studio yesterday. Sorry, I knew his people kept an eye on us, but nobody's ever had a problem because of that. Sorry if you... It's not a problem, he's just worried about you. I get it. Worry and control are not the same thing, I guess. Did he say anything else? Would it be a better idea to recount the entire conversation or stop there? You know, not really. What right does he have to constantly meddle in my life? I'm a grade A student, I'm taking extra classes, preparing to get into university, everything the way he wants. And he's trying to take away my only escape. I don't think it's about... Do you realize how scummy that is? Of course I do. Sorry again, I'll definitely talk to him, and Kobayashi Corporation will never bother you again. Don't, I've already forgotten about it, honest. If it's gonna affect your decision at all, I promise you it won't. I'm already regretting telling her about the visit to her grandfather. Then I'll call you tomorrow? No need, I'll call you myself. I gave a brief answer. Just don't take too long. And without letting me say a word, she bid farewell. Talk to you later. A-type behavior, huh? The type A behavior pattern is characterized by an extreme sense of time urgency, competitiveness, impatience, aggressiveness, much increased risk of a heart attack, and much more. Yeah, I definitely don't have whatever that is. Despite all the obvious contradictions, I'd always considered myself an active person, but Ellie's unrelenting energy would tire out anyone. Were there no other bass players in Tokyo? Or maybe it was something else. I walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, stared inside for a while, closed it, and grabbed a pack of nuts from the shelf. That would have to do. What a lovely day. So Ellie, her grandfather, and his questions about whether we were in a relationship. It seemed that just yesterday there'd only been one girl in the entire world I wanted to be in a relationship with. But now, even today's park bench incident left me almost indifferent. Ah, Kagame. I jumped up and rushed to the hall. However, it turned just to be Michael. Oh, hi Michael. Nice to see you again. Good to see you too. Why again? Never mind. Do you have anything you want to talk about, or are you just dropping by? I do, actually. Let's make it quick. I'm a bit busy now. It's about Catherine. Catherine. Ugh. I thought that she tearily told him not to talk about a relationship. May I come in? Of course you can. No, thank you. I talked to Catherine today. Nick, I like her, and that's why I'm here. I understand you two used to be in a relationship. Not anymore. You don't seem surprised at all. No, it's because I was hiding in the bushes and watching you. You got a problem with that? It's just an observation. Intentionally or not, Michael was trying to aggravate me. Do you need my permission to date her? Dude, I really don't care. With this, he'd be off the hook. Permission granted, no objections left. You need my blessing, not my permission. I smirked and for some reason laughed. I don't think the choice of words changes the point. Except, not being a priest, I can't give you any absolution, if you see it that way. I just don't see the point of this conversation. Then you're against it? What difference does it make if I'm for or against it? If I say I mind, are you gonna leave her alone? I just need to know in advance. You didn't answer the question. Then what are we discussing here? Alma shouted. Catherine would continue to exist in some sort of superposition. Nick, I've come to you as a friend. Have you? Then what would you say if you were in my shoes? Depends on what I felt in the moment. What he felt. I grumbled and took the kettle filled with boiling water off the burner. But Michael also had a point. My answer would hardly matter. You know, I'm glad she came back, I really am. Oh. Otherwise I would have suffered who knows how much longer because of a person that no longer exists. You think you know her? No, but I'd like to. Try not to be disappointed. That's resentment talking. Sorry, to sort it out between Catherine and yourself without dragging me into it. Does that mean you don't mind our relationship? Do whatever you want, I don't care. Goodbye. So what had just happened? Could that fact just change my feelings? I doubted it. Was it Catherine? No, it was more correct to say I was stripping myself over feelings that had been hurting me for so long. Kagami still wasn't picking up. No, it's too early to panic. A centipede was asked once by its enemy how to choose the sequence its legs moves in as it walks. I'd seen the bartender only yesterday, so I decided to drop by another restaurant I visited occasionally. Okay, I think this is a change. Normally, you'd be at the house until nighttime Kagome would show up. Now she's not. Having eaten my fill, I was walking down the street without any direction in mind. If I were to accept Ellie's offer, I'd probably become a regular customer there. Doesn't hurt to ask. I decided to enter the shop, but ran into a young fellow in the doorway, clearly not Japanese. Guy, sorry, he said in English. No problem. We tried to go our ways, but the door was narrow for the both of us. Do we know each other? I don't think so. And under different circumstances, I would have easily forgotten him, except we met in Tokyo, not say in Berlin. Right, you were at our concert a few days ago. Wait. I guess you're right, sorry then. Wait, who was playing there? He named the bands. Pity I didn't know, I definitely would have stopped by. You like music? What am I talking about? We met at a music store. Well, I mostly listen. By the way, my name's Ed. Hi Ed, you seem like a chill guy. Nick, you don't play? They mostly sell instruments here, not records. Well, you know, I play the bass sometimes. Nothing serious, but just a hobby. But I was recently asked to play in a band. And you agreed? I'm still thinking. What's the issue then? It flashed a big smile, and I suddenly got the feeling that we'd known each other for many years. Here's reasons of a non-musical nature. I understand. I'm on tour with a band I know, so I've seen a lot. The human factor is sometimes even more important than the creative aspect. I guess I don't have much experience with this stuff. So, you got someone you know playing in the band? Yeah, something like that. Someone close? We met just recently. And you like her? What's that to do with? It's written on your face. He hemmed thoughtfully. It's not about liking someone, it's more about... Their producer thinks I've got no place in the band. And what do you think? Who cares? Don't you? If they had another producer, would you agree? That's impossible. I laughed but couldn't help but think about it. Yeah, if Ellie wasn't heir to the Kobayashi Corporation. What if I imagine Zed feels as a normal teenage band with rehearsals, not watched by unsmiling men in black suits? If there's no Catherine, Kagome, KGB, would I turn the offer down? If everything were so simple, What's stopping you? Wait. He raised his hand, not let me interrupt him. Imagine yourself in 50 years. You're looking back at your life. What would you like to see? A man who spent all of his time in doubt? Well, for starters, I really would like to see a man alive, but Ed didn't need to know how complicated things were. In the end, it's only about what you want. What I want. A strong desire about what I want. That was a horrible Spider-Man reference. Honorable customer, you're in the way. Sorry. I replied and finally walked through the doorway. I was walking home feeling like I just discovered something huge. I didn't know what happened to the former bass player Zed Fields, whether he left with his parents or Kyoto or something else. I had really strong doubts that Kakimara had just buried him in a forest. Why not the entire band then? Even if Kobayashi-Jun wanted Ellie to stop playing rock music, killing a member of her band wasn't the way to do it. Of course, it is no May went I could just ignore his warning, but it was my life we were talking about, and life specifically, not just my existence. I could exercise prudence and reject her offer, hide from danger, and then double down, lock myself up at home and stay there until I run out of food. I was sure that the KGB and Kobayashi Corporation would both soon realize a shut-in posed no threat to them, and then what? Especially after I just basically let Catherine go and handed her over to Michael. The telephone was in the same place as always, watching me with cold indifference. I couldn't find the courage to grab the receiver. Screw it. I received a very polite and somehow greaselike beating. It must have been their butler. Could I please talk to Ellie-san? It took a few minutes, and I imagined how he walked down the endless corridors of an old castle, going up spiral staircases, holding a candlestick with a barely burning candle. Hello. Hi, it's Nick. Oh, hi Nick, did you make up your mind? About that. Mostly because of what I was about to say. You know, I gave it a lot of thought. I barely had, in fact. My decision was mostly spontaneous. It was a moment when I felt like it'd be the right thing to do. There was nothing else I could possibly do but this. Well, I accept your offer. Great. Then come to tomorrow's rehearsal. It's at 12 o'clock. She wasn't surprised at all, as if it was just how things were supposed to be. Alright, yeah, see you tomorrow. See ya. I hung up and exhaled. Well, what now? Maybe it'd be better to call tomorrow and refuse. Say some urgent business came up. Then I had to get my house fumigated because of bedbugs. That I'd given up on critical thinking. I was about to become a Buddhist. I'd probably have spent the entire evening coming up with excuses, but my phone rang again. Hello? Was it you calling us all day? Was it so hard to pick up? I had stuff to do apart from talking to you. I don't doubt it, but you weren't the only person in the restaurant. We were cleaning today. In any case, we need to talk tomorrow. Fine. When and where? I'll find you myself. I've got plans tomorrow, actually. Until night. Do you want to meet at night? See you tomorrow. She replied briefly and hung up. How do you talk to someone like her? But the conversation had completely thrown thoughts about skipping rehearsal out of my mind. I'd go there, see what's what, and then make a decision. I doubted her grandfather would have whacked me for a single visit. I was torturing the bass until late at night, remembering the parts I'd been rehearsing with Zed Fields yesterday. In the end, the low frequencies started affecting me like hypnosis. I put the bass away, went to put my clothes on, covered up with a blanket, and fell asleep. Ah yes, the sweet release of sleep. My favorite. Niju 20. I was dreaming about music. It happens sometimes. You sit at a piano and play a marvelous melody. I couldn't play the piano, but in my dream it was so effortless, it seemed like I'd been doing it my entire life. There's only one issue with dreams like that. When you wake up, you can't recall a single note. That morning, the entire world seemed surreal. Nothing particularly unusual ever happened in my life. My parents brought me to Japan when I was still too little. You couldn't consider my relationship with Catherine something outstanding, right? Most teenagers go through romantic turmoil of one kind or another, and every single one of them thinks their love in particular is uniquely special. But playing in a band, especially a band like this, I could barely explain even to myself what was so unique about Zed Fields apart from the fact that Ellie played in it. Not that I needed to. Your first band is like your first love. I wish I had musical talent, but my hands and brain are out of sync half the time. Might be why I can play horror games. and why I suck at trying to run from enemies. Who knows? I stared at it for once, but eventually gave up on the idea. Sorry, friend. Another time. I reached the studio by 11:30, but the door was already open. Hey guys, Ishida and Mitsuyoshi were inside. Hey, decided to join us after all? Yeah, if you'll have me. Why would you need our permission? It's all up to the princess. The princess? They exchanged looks and laughed idiotically. You know, we call Elle that sometimes. I see. The pause dragged on. I decided not to bring my guitar along. Is that alright? No problem. You were comfortable enough playing ours yesterday, right? Pretty much. Good then. I heard steps from behind the door and Tokyo Rider into the room. I didn't doubt for a second that I'd meet you here this morning. We were all hoping you'd come too. I'm just in a good mood today. Maybe we have a rehearsal. But things seemed to have changed. I could feel that I was, if not welcomed with open arms, at least not considered a stranger. Ellie arrived around here 12:30. Sorry I'm late. Hi Nick, good to see you. Good to see you too. While looking at her, I suddenly felt a change in our relationship as well. We were no longer just schoolmates, but now bandmates. Would I fit in? Would I play well with the group? Did I have the skill? Time would tell, sure, but at that moment, I was ready to put in every effort to stay with them as long as possible. Alright, let's not just stand here and get playing. For starters, we played the same song as yesterday. The time spent practicing at home hadn't been in vain. I was far more confident with the strings. After a few attempts, Mitsuyoshi said, "There we go." A couple times it seemed to me that Ellie was giving me a weird look while we were playing. Possibly just because of my sharpened perception and focus on the instrument. She stood me apart from another song of theirs. That one turned out to be more difficult, but more or less with my current ability. While I was sitting in the corner learning it, the others played various covers of Western hits. Oh, I know this one. I managed to join in for a couple of them. The rehearsal lasted for several hours without a break, and to be frank, I was pretty tired by the end. Ellie, on the contrary, didn't even break a sweat. Finally, Tokyo Rider squeezed out a siren-like sound out of the synth and exclaimed, "Lunchtime." Lunchtime it is. Wait, they played for 7 hours, and they're taking a break for lunch. I've got a bento. Me too. Don't even look at me. Nick, nope, no bento today. Me neither. Let's go find a restaurant or something. Let's go. We had what was to say, very average ramen, and I was surprised to find out that Ellie ate that sort of thing, and second that she enjoyed it. You're quiet today, she said on the way back. Just focused on the music. Don't want to get kicked out after my first rehearsal. I hope it's not about my grandfather. You know, I won't lie. It's hard to pretend that nothing happened after the head of Kobayashi Corporation calls you to his office. But you came today, didn't you? She said wistfully and looked me in the eye. Yeah, I did come today. I didn't want to say why. I didn't understand myself. I hope Granddad won't bother you anymore. And if he does, make sure to tell me. I will. Don't worry, I'm not gonna lie to you like I lied to all my other friends. Now they hate me. Good stuff, good stuff. Finally, we thought you weren't coming back. Ishida, show some tact. Tact, enough already. Ellie grew embarrassed. How long do you usually practice for? Depends. Sometimes all the way until evening on weekends. After an hour of non-stop play, I had the feeling I'd faint if I played another second. Half an hour after that, I felt my second wind. And after 2 hours, I felt like I'd become one with the bass. Its neck a continuation of my left hand, and there I was, not trying to hold the frets, but effortlessly bending and moving my fingers, the instrument obediently responding with the notes I needed. At first I carefully followed the rhythm, trying not to even be a millisecond off, but now my right hand strummed like a well-tuned machine. Have you tried using a pick? I have, but I feel like the sound gets artificial or something when you can't feel the strings. Well, maybe, but you also get more variety. If I need it for... No, you're doing well. He smiled. It was indeed well into the evening when we finished. I'd never felt that tired, even after playing football for hours. Thanks everyone, I gotta fly. Tokyo Rider was the first to leave the studio. I should go, see you guys soon. Me too. Mitsuyoshi and Ishida left together. Why is everyone in such a hurry? I remarked without a second thought, but Ellie immediately blushed. They must be busy. Let's go. Are we going to the bar? Feeling strange? A bit. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. I hope so. You know, Nick, I'm very grateful. We wouldn't be able to find anyone else to play bass in such a short time. To be honest, I was having trouble believing that. Several folded sheets of paper with my parts of songs sat in my pocket. If they were counting on me to learn them before the next rehearsal, then anyone could do it. It's fate, I grinned. Think about it, just a week ago, I saw Zed Fields for the first time, and now I've become your bass player. She said wistfully, do you believe in fate? No, actually. I'm more of a fan that our actions shape the future. I never really thought about this. You were right not to. It's always better to put your efforts outwards. You're smart. I missed a step and stared at her, unable to figure out if that was irony or not. Wit? What? It's the name of a book by a Russian writer who lived in the 19th century. I haven't read it. The conversation had clearly taken a wrong turn and was about to drop dead. I would have never had this problem when communicating with Mitsu or Catherine. I probably wouldn't have it with Kagami either. We'd be too busy arguing to find any time for silence. Why is it that when you don't know a person well, every prolonged pause creates this awkwardness? So the next rehearsal's on Wednesday? There isn't much time left. Scared already? Objectively, I have a long way to go to reach your level. You should realize that. There was a time I couldn't play either. Yeah, and then you learned in 3 days? I guess I didn't. 1 point to you. This isn't a competition. Why not? If you want to be good at something, it's always useful to have a benchmark. I've personally seen your bassist play, and I can safely say I won't get to his level anytime soon. Maybe. You aren't even gonna argue with me? You might have left for Kyoto. What's the point in arguing now? It's like you, well, I don't want to be rude, but you're not upset about it at all. He wasn't playing with us for long. We haven't had enough time to get to know each other. Want to talk to me about it? Around half a year ago, our former bass player was invited to play in a more serious band. He apologized a lot, but in the end, you know how it happens. You clearly have a bad luck with bassists. Or they have bad luck with me. Well, I clearly don't. She looked at me with surprise and blushed. Do you say that to every girl? Only the ones I like. I replied automatically. The words themselves weren't a big deal. I would have said the same to Catherine or Mitsu, even any other girl. But Ellie, there's a whole lot of reasons why I shouldn't have said that. And at the very least, she was the granddaughter of somebody nobody wanted to get on the bad side of, and that was exactly what I was doing. Sorry if no, it's okay. I didn't want to. So you don't like me? I do, of course, but I didn't mean it that way. How did you mean it then? I looked around just to avoid meeting her eyes. Where are we even going? I don't know about you, but I'm going home. Just like this, on foot? They'll pick me up at the station. Ah, then I'll see you to it. I still feel like you're uncomfortable around me, Ellie said when we reached the station. I understand it's because of my grandfather, but still. If Kobayashi-jun's granddaughter wasn't so attractive, if she didn't play guitar, if she wasn't Ellie. Come on, I'm here. We've just spent the entire day rehearsing ourselves bloody. Everything's okay. I don't think so, but I hope it will be okay in time. I have to go now. Bye. She smiled me a farewell. Will be okay. I was grumbling on my way home. Easy for her to say. She'll totally be okay. It felt like I was being hit by aftershocks. Unfortunately, in my case, this was just the beginning. If Kobayashi-jun's agents were still watching the studio, they must have already reported to their master that I hadn't heeded his warnings. But strangely, I was less bothered by it than you'd think I'd be. Kobayashi-jun's office on the 100-and-something floor seemed to be so unreachably far away, while Ellie was close and beckoning. Supposedly, a person perceives their future self the same way they perceive strangers. So now I was thinking about what or what might not happen in the future. I was practically imagining someone else. But Ellie, she was right here, right next to me. We'd see each other tomorrow at school. On the other hand, this daredevil thinking probably wouldn't do me any good. Although, good and bad are relative concepts. Would it be better to keep wallowing in self-pity and mooning over Catherine? Thinking of her suddenly made my heart skip miss a beat, and I again felt that desire to talk to her and make something clear. I just wasn't sure what that something was. That I don't like you? I wish I could lie down, rest, and sleep. But sitting on the porch, counting the stars was Kagome. Yeah, she did promise yesterday she'd find me herself, but again, yesterday's me was a complete stranger. Been waiting long. You weren't in a hurry. If you'd warned me in advance, we could have agreed on the time and you wouldn't have had to wait. No worries, I've got a day off today. Everybody does, it's Sunday. That's the busiest day for restaurants. Not all restaurants. Right, I forgot you help with the restaurant too. Now, where have you been then? Does it matter? Must have been hanging out with Kobayashi. It was you who wanted me to spend more time with her. Are you gonna invite me in? For some reason, she was acting more confident than usual, or rather more brazen. Well, since standing here around on the street is the only other option. Come on in. Please make yourself at home. What's mine is yours, I grumbled. In the kitchen, she opened the fridge, still looking like she owned the place, and spent some time checking its contents. Do have yourself a second butter sandwich, I'm not counting. What was that? Nothing. As someone who works in the food service, I feel genuinely sorry for you. What do you want to talk about? If it's about your father, don't worry. I remember and intend to keep my promise to help. As if you wouldn't, but that's not why I'm here. Then why? I wanted to thank you. Now that's unexpected. To what do I owe such an honor? If you hadn't provoked the conflict, my problem probably would have never been resolved. The conflict? Yeah, what about them? Everything's fine now. I handled it. You handled it how? Does it matter? Just curious. Isn't it nicer to receive gratitude personally? From someone else, maybe. Huh, so am I not good enough for you? I didn't say that, but for some reason it feels like there's a catch here. You're not telling me where you were today, so why should I? Well, I see. It was stupid to even think about you. She suddenly went silent. Did I what? Nothing. Kagome stomped her foot apparently and prepared to leave. Yeah, I was with Ellie. We'd been rehearsing. Rehearsing what? Music. Are pleased to replace the bassist in their group. For a moment, her face showed the signs of intense thought. That's good. Good? So you're not ready to complain about it? Why would I? I was the one who told you to become closer to her. Can hardly be closer than playing in the same band. Just don't think I did it for you. I really actually like their music. Oh, don't look for excuses. I just care about the end result, not your motivation. And it doesn't even surprise you that she chose you and not someone else? I mean, that wasn't anyone else to ask. I replied unsurely. You know, I don't know about music, but sometimes it seems like every second person in Tokyo can play the guitar. And even if they can't, they learned for the hair of Kobayashi Corporation. Accuse me of ulterior motives all you like, I don't care. I don't care. Kagome mocked me and laughed. Glad you're having fun. If that's it, are you kicking me out? You're trying to provoke me. I guess I really should have just called or even said nothing. People like you don't deserve gratitude. This aggression of hers. Sure, you could even accuse her of being excessively patient, but today she was particularly riled up. Jesus, you're a schizo. Go see a doctor. I will, as soon as I found my father. She barked out and left. When the door closed, I sat on the chair thinking, so, she handled Kawashima no Sakura? In the end, our conversation had concluded as usual. I had zero idea what was going on, but the more I tried to understand, the more confused I was getting. Yeah. I don't want to think the worst, but did she kill them? I don't think she could. But I don't... You know what? I'm not even going to think about it. If she did, she did. The music was a good day to distract myself and clean my head. Maybe when and if I became a professional, I learned to play an autopilot, I'd be able to think about something else at the same time. I finished long past midnight, completely exhausted but satisfied. Nijuichi, 21. I was rarely enthusiastic about the start of a week. I was only 18, and as such hadn't felt the inexorable passing of time. The end of one set of 7 days and the beginning of another felt like turning over to another line page in a thick notebook. No matter how many times I did it, the end was nowhere near. Except there was no erasing the things written on previous pages. There was one good thing though. I could see Ellie again. You're early today. Kyosuke noted with surprise. You too. How was your weekend? They wouldn't kick me out before I could tell them, what would they? Much better than mine, I see. Kyosuke muttered sadly inside. Can't complain, but I'll let it say a secret for now. Trying to maximize the element of surprise? I'd rather not attract too much attention ahead of time. Attract attention? You've got my curiosity. He was about to say something else, but the appearance of the principal, who suddenly entered the classroom, didn't let him. Instead of your first class, the whole school is to meet in the yard. Has something happened? You'll learn everything there. Oh, they are totally dead. I suddenly felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. What do you think is on his mind? Think it's related to your little secret? What if they're gonna say someone poured crap all over the principal's office? Would you calm down already? 15 minutes later, the entire school gathered in the yard. The principal walked up to the podium that had been brought from somewhere, looked over a crowd and coughed a few times and began. This morning I bring you terrible news. Yesterday, several students of our school tragically died. More precisely, they were brutally murdered. Horribly and with exceptional cruelty. Kiyama-sensei wasn't holding back and clearly wasn't reading from a script. From the moment he started to speak, the yard was plunged in complete silence. I cannot find any excuse for whoever could do something like this, but be assured, I'll see to it personally, that the culprits will be found and punished according to the strictest standards of the law. He paused again and looked over the crowd, not holding his gaze on anyone in particular. I was naturally shocked, but didn't yet know how to feel. Objectively, you don't feel as strongly about strangers dying as people you know. And who were those kids to me? We studied at the same school with hundreds of other people. Asakura, Kawashima. Terror paralyzed my whole body, and my heart seemed to have stopped beating. After a couple seconds, I managed to force myself to turn my head in search of Kagome. Everything's fine now, I handled it. Her words had sounded strange to me yesterday, but I couldn't even imagine then that Kagome was standing not too far away and didn't look particularly shocked. No, of course, there was no surprise on her face, but no more than all the others. Meanwhile, the principal kept talking. When we were entering an age of stability, prosperity, and order, the Japanese nation will not tolerate scum who prey upon what we must hold dear, our future, our children. Kawashima, Asakura, those thugs too. Kagome might be good with a kitchen knife, but it was hard to imagine her taking out one person, let alone 8. And if not for what she had said yesterday, would I be suspicious of her now? After all, the victims were far from angels. Even the most tragic memorial has to end in time or risks turning into a boring sermon. Nick? What? Kawashima, Asakura, don't you think that's strange? Why? They're connected to Kagome. Do I look like Commissare Migra to you? I ask you for your understanding as the investigation is conducted at our school. I ask for your assistance, may the officers have any questions. Either extreme would have been more suspicious than her current behavior. Still, I couldn't shake off the thought that she had a motive, and even if it was unlikely she'd come to me to brag. First, she killed 8 people in cold blood, then apparently washed up, changed her clothes, had dinner, and traveled to the other side of the city to tell a classmate she dealt with them, without even specifying how. Well, either she did or she paid someone to do it. Actually, that's possible. No, not the unfortunate deaths, but the fact that I was standing here and actually blaming her for it. We shall not kowtow to these and surrender to fear. Therefore, I have no intention of making any changes to our school schedule. However, all students are to leave the school premises by 6 o'clock. The place and date of the memorial service will be announced separately, and I don't care. Right, I could have just imagined Asakura poring over textbooks, although speak no ill of the dead, right? The students started to disperse. The majority of them were quiet and only a few exchanged brief phrases, mostly in whispers. Let's go, Nick. Go first, I'll catch up. I on the hand had to talk to Kagome, but Ellie was faster than me. She already lunged at Imawara. You killed my friends! I knew you were crazy, but I couldn't even imagine now. And if someone else had been in her place, I think a fight would have broken out. Girls, let's step away. No way, let anyone know what she's done. Let's step away. I repeated it instantly and grabbed both of them by the hands and dragged them aside. Let me go. I refuse to listen to another sob story. It doesn't matter if they were guilty or not. A couple insults don't justify murder. A couple insults? Kagome smirked. She's not even denying it. Ellie, calm down. Think about it. How could Kagome alone kill 8 people? Who told you she was alone? Sure, I'm the one with the body of an army of bodyguards. And you should watch what you say. Or what, you put me behind bars? I'm not a policeman, but the police will quickly figure out you weren't on the best of terms with them. I was on no terms with any of them. Why would you raise needless suspicion? Just you wait. The police will sort it out, and if they don't, we'll help them. Is that a threat? Exactly. I'm looking forward to it. Kagome really was acting weirdly. Once trapped, you fight? But there was something else to her behavior. Happiness, delight, or pride? Like a criminal taken to execution, a desire to spit in the face of her torturers one last time. Sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut. I wasn't the one who started this. A few days in a cell will wipe that nasty smirk off your face. This conversation had to end one way or another. Let's not accuse anyone prematurely. I can't believe you're protecting her. Unlike Ellie, I was more concerned with the technical aspect of this matter than the moral one. You can think whatever you want about her, but look at her. Does she look like a maniac to you? Ellie pursed her lips and looked away. Doesn't matter who else could, they had no enemies. Oh yes, sure. Kagome kept sneering. Stop it already. You're the one who told me yesterday that you handled them. What? Ellie started back up. And you can't just keep your mouth shut. What, were you gonna hide it from the police too? You don't need to tell me what you meant when you said you handled whatever it was, but you can't hide it from them. Do you believe that I could, that I'm capable of it? Yeah, I'm not upset by what happened to them, but what, am I supposed to spend the entire time in tears to avoid suspicion? But no, but at least behave more appropriately. Appropriately to what? Your expectations, I don't give a dang. You know, I think I'd rather speak to police if they've got any questions for me. Oh, now you wait. What do you mean you handled them? Stay away or you regret it. Kagome swung at her. Mostly just the threat, but I still pulled Ellie to me abruptly and she ended up in my arms. Kagome quickly returned to the school. Nick, I'm scared. I'm even afraid to be near her. I didn't know what to say. For a while we just stood there silently. I was holding Ellie in a firm hug while she kept her head on my chest. Finally, it was time to come back to reality. I'm not justifying her actions, but do you really think she could kill 8 people on her own? I don't know what to think, but who else? What's more in a single night? Yeah, that was important. If it was a serial killer, they'd much rather be killing their victims one by one. They'd been in the same friend group, that was clear, but apart from that, nothing else came to mind. You know, knew them better. I'm not saying they were the best of people, but how do you do something like this? Who could possibly? Ellie burst into the tears and I had to hug her again to somehow pacify her. There. I'm sure the police will find the murderers in no time. I hope so. It's really hard for me to see you protecting Kagome because just don't do it anymore. Will you promise? I'm not protecting Kagome. I'm just trying to think logically. I don't want logic. I know it's her fault, even if she didn't kill him herself. Ellie, but because before she hit Miku, everything had been fine, and before... But it wasn't prudent to tell Ellie that. Class is about to start. I mean, we need to live on somehow. Do you understand? She replied quietly, wiped her tears and stepped away from me. But be sure, I'll do everything so that the killer, whoever they are, gets what they deserve. I wouldn't expect any less of you. Huh. Kagome wasn't in the classroom. Her desk was empty. Well, no wonder. I'd returned right before the bell rang, but at least I had an opportunity to think everything through. What if the corporation was somehow involved in this too? Kyosuke approached me as soon as break started and Michael followed. Nick, I saw you talking to Ellie and Kagome from the window. I decided I'd better not get involved. Thanks for that. So, do you think that Kagome did it? How do you think could a little girl take down 8 people, including a few decently strong guys? But then what were you talking about, especially with Ellie? Ellie, what does she have to do with anything? You can't deny that Asakura and Kawashima were her friends. There exists a type of extreme pedantic person who is destined to notice and correct every little inaccuracy, especially in the words of the people they talk to. Michael couldn't understand or deliberately ignored it all. How many times have we had this conversation this week? I've lost count. But people have died. People die every day. Just don't say you don't give a dang. I do, but I'm not to mourn them either. I barely know them. Unlike Kagome. Again? Just that moment, the principal entered the classroom and announced around the doorway. The police are working in our school at the moment. You'll be questioned one person at a time. Once your surname is called, please stand up calmly. That'll be all. I felt uncomfortable and tried my best not to show it to my friends. Nick, you look a bit pale. I guess anyone would feel uncomfortable about a police interrogation. If they have something to hide... Oh, screw you. I crossed my arms over my chest and turned away. The next class started, and my concern grew with every second. Yeah, I had something to hide. Yesterday's conversation with Kagome at my place, for one. It was too early for the police to suspect her. Still, I couldn't think of anyone better suited to the role, no matter how hard I tried. Of course, eventually it was my turn. Pretty soon, too. There were two policemen in the principal's office. In reality, it played out differently, with both taking turns to ask me questions without much interest or emotion. Like the lab technicians would question the 100th subject in an experiment, analyzing how length of the working day for its politically or something. They were mostly asking about Asakura, relationships with the other students, and specifically inquired if she had any enemies. I answered honestly and said we really never even known each other personally. But the entire interrogation, I didn't know where to look. Mostly I'm staring unblinkingly at one detective or the other. Then my back and butt became numb, and I straightened out naturally and froze in this position. But the investigator still looked bored and it seemed to pay attention to my unnatural behavior. When the torture was over, I walked out of the office with a sense of relief. Well, spill it. There's nothing to spill. I'm sure they asked you the same questions. And what did you say? I've never known Asakura? They didn't seem to have any enemies, but I'm not sure. That our class is pretty normal. What? You thought they'd go after me with extreme prejudice? Maybe you suspect me too and not just Kagome. No, Nick, what are you saying? Kyosuke, really, this isn't a mystery novel. Real people have died, and police work is far more complicated in real life. I understand that. But it's like you two aren't curious at all. What if there's a maniac hunting down our students? It's not Kagome anymore? I smirked. I asked my dad to get the details from the police. But I'm not going to tell you a word if you're not interested. What a pity. Did seem like we had a reason to think we're being hunted. Although I'd be more careful if I were you. Why? Well, you're the one making up theories. Try to imagine why. Nick, don't scare Kyosuke, seriously. I'm not scaring him, just giving him a warning. What if the victims also enjoyed reading pulp fiction but somehow managed to come across something important? Do you seriously think that? No, not seriously. And let's stop at that for now. But I'm still gonna talk to Dad, if you want. I decided to go to the canteen during break, but in the corridor, I ran into a girl who'd been restlessly fidgeting at the door to our classroom. She loudly exclaimed and jumped back to meet her. I grumbled and was about to move on. I didn't feel particularly guilty. Is Asakura-san, was she in your class? She looked down apologetically. Yeah, did you know each other? Not really. My first thought was, what if this girl knows something about Asakura and Kawashima? What's your name? What's wrong? Let's step aside. Soon we were in the old school wing. The girl was all tensed up and looked at me warily. What do you know about what happened? I mean, of course you do. The entire school was out there. How are you connected to him? Sorry, I don't even know your name. It's alright. No, she bore more resemblance with Kagome. Have they been picking on you? An odd girl. A fitting target for Asakura's gang. I just have a friend, an acquaintance who suffered because of them. If you did too, it'd help us a lot. She absolutely did not look like a murderer. The girl laughed and then cried again. At first I couldn't believe what the principal said. Sure, I wasn't friends with Asakura, but I never wished her dead. How did I notice this before? And why had this girl so easily agreed to follow me to a deserted location? Don't worry, I'm not gonna do anything to you. I can see you're not like that. You know when you say that. Are you from Ellie's class? So you must know Kawashima better. I feel sorry for Kawashima-san too. Sorry. And in this case, however you look at it, at least some people felt better with them gone. Maybe it's for the better. For the better? I mean, so many people can breathe easier now without their constant attacks. Sure, I didn't have an easy relationship with them. But there was a whole life ahead of them. They could have changed in the future. Yeah, of course. I felt ashamed and tried to quickly change the topic. So, what did you want? What? Well, you were looking for someone in our class. No, I just dropped by. Huh? I'll have to sigh. And everything in nature, and thus in society, is determined by simple cause and effect with heredity and upbringing as their foundation. It's all simple, but does that make things easier for Kagome? For this weird girl? For me? Do you know Kagome by any chance? Who? Iwamura Kagome, she's in my class. No, I don't know her. Gotcha. I sighed almost with relief. Alright then, sorry for dragging you all the way out here. Did you know them? Who? Well, I was in the same class as Asakura. We never really talked, if that's what you mean. Why do you ask? Just wondering. The girl kept silent. Alright then, goodbye. She smiled and went deeper into the old wing. Why? I spent some time standing in place, thinking about what had just happened. Sure, it'd be stupid to suspect this weird girl of taking out Asakura and Kawashima's gang. But there were plenty of people here who, even if they didn't want them dead, weren't too upset about what happened. No, that's just stupid. Who'd win? 10 Iromuras or 10 Asakuras? Class was over and Himitsu was waiting me at the front of the school. I was so worried, Nikolai. Did I fall asleep in class? A tragedy happened. One of the girls who died was in your class, right? Yeah, Asakura. I replied, trying to sound as indifferent as possible. Did you know each other? No. Oh, what am I saying? No, we didn't. Asakura, she was part of another social circle. Is that so? We were slowly walking home. Our relationship had been far from perfect lately. Right now she seemed like an ex-wife forced to come to my parents' funeral and obligingly express some amount of sympathy. Did Asakura do that? Mitsu finally? Do what? Your door in the window. What made you think that? It was just a guess. What if she did? You don't think I killed him, do you? You don't, right? I started getting worried. No, Nikolai, of course I don't. Doesn't sound like you're sure. How can I be sure when you're hiding so much from me? I'm not... Fine. Even if I don't talk about certain things, why would you jump to that extreme? Not every 18-year-old with a few secrets can be a serial killer, don't you think? I don't know what to think anymore, Nikolai. As if we were talking about something completely insignificant, just mundane stuff. And you won't ask me if I'm in danger? I could, but I already know what you'd say. Everything's fine, sunshine, don't worry. She said mockingly, and in a sense, Himitsu was right. I would indeed have answered along those lines. I don't mean everything's fine in the context of a normal person. Everything's fine in the context of my life. So, you don't even want a normal life for yourself? Ah, you confused me. You confused yourself, Nikolai. Here you go again. We'll leave things off here. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. As always, goodbye.